All right, strap yourselves in, folks, because today we're diving headfirst into the story of a company that's been through more loops and twists than a barrel roll in a fighter jet. It's Faraday Future.
And it's not just the ups and downs of the EV market they've been tackling.
Right, it's not like they're just trying to outmaneuver Tesla. They've been grappling with a whole other set of challenges, haven't they?
Absolutely. They've had to fight tooth and nail against financial woes, stock market mayhem, you name it. It's a real head-scratcher how they've held onto this ambitious vision of theirs through it all, this whole idea of reshaping what a luxury EV can be.
Well, let's be honest. Their first car, that FF91, it's a bit like they're trying to construct a spaceship while simultaneously fending off a pack of hungry wolves.
I like that analogy. It really captures the balancing act they've had to pull off. The FF91 itself is a prime example. It's a tech marvel crammed with enough horsepower to launch a rocket and enough luxury features to make a king jealous. But man, getting that thing from a concept on paper to actually rolling off the production line, that's been a saga and a half.
Speaking of the SF91, we're talking 3 electric motors, a jaw-dropping 1050 horsepower, and a 0 to 60 time that'll leave your head spinning. What's the deal with this beast? Give us the lowdown.
Well, those 3 motors aren't just for bragging rights. They're the secret sauce behind the FF91's performance claims. Yeah, they provide mind-blowing acceleration, but the real magic is in the independent motor control. It allows for something called torque vectoring.
Torque vectoring.
Think of it this way. The car can fine-tune the power delivered to each wheel individually, making it insanely nimble and responsive. Picture a cheetah changing direction at full speed. That's the level of agility we're talking about.
So it's not just about brute force. It's about precision, control, a driving experience that aims to blow even those sporty Teslas out of the water.
You got it. They're targeting those buyers who want more than just a speed demon. They crave a driving experience that tickles all the senses, a car that feels as opulent as it looks and performs.
And speaking of opulence, boy, they've piled on the bells and whistles. We're talking zero-gravity seats inspired by NASA, a massive 27-inch Ultra HD screen for those in the back, 5G connectivity. This thing is practically a palace on wheels.
The whole idea is to create this immersive experience where cutting-edge tech meets unparalleled comfort and luxury. Picture a private jet fused with a luxury suite, and you're getting close to the vibe they're going for.
But here's the kicker. Constructing a luxury EV isn't cheap, and Faraday Future has been battling financial headwinds right from the get-go. Their stock performance has been more unpredictable than a roller coaster designed by a mad scientist.
Their stock price tells a story of both soaring ambition and some harsh realities. Back in February 2021, it hit an all-time high of 19.16 a share, driven by pure hype and investor enthusiasm. But then, well, reality set in.
Funding struggles, production delays, the inherent volatility of the EV market, it all conspired to drag that stock price down.
By November 2024, it had crashed down to a measly 1.79. Now that's a plunge that would give even the most seasoned investor a serious case of the jitters.
Talk about a reality check. It really highlights the fragility of investor confidence in the world of these ambitious startups. One minute you're riding high, the next you're caught in a downpour.
And let's not forget their little dance with the meme stock craze back in May 2023. Their stock price skyrocketed by an unbelievable 1,500%, all thanks to social media hype and speculative trading, but the bubble burst just as quickly. It was a single-day drop of 62%.
That meme stock episode, it was like a jolt of electricity to the heart. A momentary surge of energy, but ultimately it just underscored the precariousness of their financial situation. It's a bit like constructing a house on a foundation of sand. Even the slightest tremor could topple the whole thing. So how has this wild financial ride affected their ability to actually manufacture and deliver cars? I mean, that's got to be a logistical nightmare.
It's like trying to assemble a puzzle while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. It's demanding, to say the least. Those dramatic stock swings directly impact their ability to secure the funding they desperately need, to hammer out deals with suppliers, and even just to plan for the future.
It's that classic chicken and egg problem, isn't it? You need the cash to build the cars, but you need to build and sell the cars to generate the cash.
You hit the nail on the head. It's this constant scramble for capital that's been the defining characteristic of their journey so far.
So did they ever manage to actually get any of these high-tech, super luxurious FF91s out on the open road? Or was it all just a pipe dream?
Against all odds, they did. In August 2023, they actually achieved a significant milestone, the delivery of their first FF91 Futurist models. It was a moment of pure triumph, a testament to their sheer grit and determination.
But there's always but, isn't there?
There is, unfortunately. By the end of 2023, they'd only managed to get a handful of these vehicles out the door, 4 sold and 6 leased. It was a symbolic victory, a proof of concept, but a far cry from the mass production they'd initially envisioned.
A bit like baking a cake worthy of a Michelin star restaurant, only to realize you only have enough frosting for a couple of cupcakes.
It really highlights the immense hurdles they face trying to scale up production from a few hand-built vehicles to a sustainable, high-volume operation. Funding constraints, supply chain bottlenecks, the ever-shifting sands of the EV market, it all played a part in slowing their progress.
So there they were, stuck in a financial pickle. They needed a cash infusion, and fast, to keep this dream alive. Where did they turn?
They had to think outside the box to get creative. In early 2023, they held shareholder meetings, essentially making a plea for more funding. They did manage to secure $135 million in new financing commitments, but there was a catch.
Ah, a catch. There's always a catch.
It hinged on a crucial shareholder vote. It was a nail-biter of a moment, a true test of whether investors still had faith in their vision.
They were hanging by a thread, relying on the goodwill of their shareholders to keep the lights on.
That's a great way to put it. And to make things even more complicated, they entered into what's called a standby equity purchase agreement, or SEPA for short.
Okay, time for a quick breakdown. Explain it to me like I'm 5. What's a SEPA, and why does it matter in this whole saga?
Imagine it as a financial safety net. It allows Faraday Future to sell shares at a predetermined price, ensuring a certain level of income, even if their stock is tanking. It's like a lifeline in the middle of a storm, but it comes at a cost.
What kind of costs?
It can dilute the value of existing shares, which can ruffle some feathers among investors. It's a gamble, really.
Calculated risk, then. But it seems like they were in a position where any risk was better than none.
Precisely. They had to weigh the immediate benefits of securing some much-needed cash against the potential long-term repercussions for their shareholders. It was a tough choice, just one example of the countless difficult decisions they've had to make along this crazy journey.
It sounds like Faraday Future's been playing a high-stakes game of financial chess, maneuvering to stay one step ahead of disaster. It must be exhausting.
You can say that again. Their cash reserves, or lack thereof, have been a constant source of stress, dictating their every move. It's like playing a video game where your health bar is constantly depleting and you're desperately searching for that power-up to stay alive.
Okay, so we've got this incredible car, the FF91, a company burning through cash like a rocket at liftoff, and this constant game of dodging financial landmines. What's their next move? Where do they go from here?
Well, instead of throwing in the towel, they decided to, well, double down on their bet. They're going down 2 paths at the same time, kind of contradictory, but both born out of this need to survive.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me. What are these 2 paths they're taking?
On the one hand, they're still chasing that big money investment, the kind that could really change the game. But get this, they're looking in a surprising direction.
Where? Don't leave me hanging.
The Middle East.
The Middle East. Now, that's a bit unexpected, isn't it? Their wealth is built on oil, not exactly a hotbed for EV enthusiasm.
That's what makes it so interesting, right? Faraday Future CEO Matthias Ade, he actually hopped on a plane and flew to Ras Al Khaimah in the UAE. They're betting that the Middle East is serious about moving away from oil, diversifying, and they see EVs playing a key role in that future.
So they're trying to tap into a whole new wave of green investment, one that sees the potential beyond oil and recognizes the power of these sustainable technologies.
Exactly. And the Middle East, with its vast wealth and ambitious plans, well, it could be a goldmine for a company like Faraday Future that's been strapped for cash.
It's almost like they're trying to convince an oil tycoon to trade in their gas-guzzling SUV for a sleek, all-electric FF91.
Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. While they're courting these Middle Eastern investors, they're also hinting at a pretty big shift in their strategy, a move toward the mass market.
Hold on, I thought they were all about luxury EVs. Are they abandoning the high rollers and going after the everyday commuter?
Not exactly. It's more like they're realizing that to really thrive in the EV world, they might need to appeal to a wider audience. They're thinking about launching a new brand alongside the FF91, something more affordable without compromising on their commitment to innovation and tech.
So, a two-pronged attack. Keep the luxurious FF91 as their flagship to attract the elite, but introduce a more budget-friendly option to grab a bigger slice of the EV pie.
That's the idea. They're calling it their U.S.-China automotive bridge strategy. Ambitious, to say the least.
A bridge between the U.S. and China. That's thinking big. How are they planning to connect these two massive, often competing automotive markets?
They're in the early stages, but they've started discussions with global manufacturers and suppliers, talking collaborations. The goal: create a platform for sharing knowledge, exchanging tech, and ultimately developing EVs that meet the specific demands of both the US and Chinese markets.
So they're aiming to be more than just a car company. They want to be a global EV powerhouse, a facilitator of innovation, a bridge between two of the biggest players in the automotive world.
It's a bold vision, that's for sure. And it speaks to that daring spirit that's been driving Faraday Future from the beginning. They're essentially placing a bet on the belief that this EV revolution is a global phenomenon, something bigger than borders and political differences.
Let's be realistic for a moment. Bridging the gap between the U.S. and China, given the current geopolitical climate, that's no easy feat. They're facing a mountain of challenges. Technology differences, regulations, not to mention the whole trade war situation.
You're absolutely right. It's a risky move, one that could easily backfire, but if they can pull it off, the rewards could be huge. Imagine a platform that unlocks a whole new level of collaboration and innovation in the EV space. A bridge that accelerates the global shift to sustainable transportation.
It's like they're trying to build the Panama Canal of the EV world, a channel connecting two vast oceans of opportunity.
Now, that's a great analogy, but even with these lofty ambitions, they still have to deal with the here and now, the immediate challenges of staying afloat in a market that's anything but stable.
Right, back to that financial tightrope they're walking. Their 2023 annual report makes for some interesting reading. It reveals both their progress and just how precarious their situation really is.
The good news: they actually started generating revenue. It's a small step, but a significant one. They reported $0.8 million in revenue for 2023. That's their first revenue generation since they started.
So they're finally seeing a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. It's a sign that all those production efforts are starting to pay off.
It's a positive, no doubt. However, they also reported a net loss of $432 million for the year, a stark reminder of just how much they're still spending to ramp up production and stay competitive in this fierce market.
It's like they're running a marathon while carrying a grand piano on their back. They're moving forward, but it's exhausting and expensive.
Couldn't have put it better myself. And to top it off, their cash position at the end of 2023 was a mere $4 million.
Wait, $4 million? That's barely enough to buy a decent apartment in some cities. How are they even operating with that little cash on hand?
It just goes to show how crucial their fundraising efforts are. They're living paycheck to paycheck, relying on every new investment to keep the lights on.
It's like they're playing a game of financial Jenga, pulling out blocks one by one, hoping the whole tower doesn't collapse.
A perfect visualization. But even with these challenges, there are glimmers of hope in their annual report. They managed to secure up to $105 million in new funding commitments, giving them a bit of breathing room.
So they're not giving up just yet. They're still fighting for their chance to make their mark on the EV world.
They're not backing down. They're showing incredible resilience, a willingness to adapt and evolve, even when things get tough.
But let's be honest, they've had their fair share of controversies, right? I mean, they even faced a NASDAQ delisting determination back in 2023. That's not exactly something to brag about.
You're right. They've been under the microscope with questions swirling about their financial transparency, their leadership decisions, and their overall viability. That NASDAQ delisting determination was a major hit, a sign that investors were losing faith.
Like getting a failing grade on a report card. A public announcement that they weren't meeting expectations.
It definitely tarnished their reputation and made attracting new investors even tougher.
So how did they react to this public scrutiny? Did they crumble under the pressure?
Not a chance. They fought back. They appealed the decision and took steps to address the issues that had led to the delisting. They knew they had to regain compliance with NASDAQ's requirements to restore credibility and attract that much-needed capital.
A wake-up call then, a moment of truth. They had to prove they were serious about building a sustainable business, not just chasing hype and headlines.
It was a pivotal moment, forcing them to face their shortcomings head-on and fight for their survival.
It's like they were teetering on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss. They had to make a choice. Take a leap of faith or fall into oblivion.
And they chose to leap, to keep fighting for their vision, to keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the EV world.
Talk about the tenacity of the human spirit. This refusal to give up even when the odds are stacked against them.
A powerful reminder that even when faced with adversity, innovation and determination can prevail.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Financial turmoil, ambitious product plans, and a healthy dose of controversy. Let's circle back to their boldest move yet, this idea of bridging the gap between the US and China in the EV space. What are the real-world implications of this strategy?
Well, imagine a world where American ingenuity and Chinese manufacturing prowess join forces to create the ultimate EV ecosystem.
Okay, I'm picturing it. A sleek, self-driving car, designed in Silicon Valley but built in a cutting-edge factory in Shenzhen. A car that seamlessly integrates with both American and Chinese charging networks, navigating the roads of both countries without a hitch.
That's the dream, a world where the best of both worlds come together to accelerate this EV revolution on a global scale.
But is it just a pipe dream? A fantasy concocted by a company desperate for a game changer? Or is there a genuine chance that Faraday Future could pull this off?
Ugh, the million-dollar question. To answer that, we have to delve into the complexities of the US-China relationship, the technological hurdles, and the cultural differences that stand in the way of this grand vision.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts of this US-China bridge strategy. Where do we even begin to unpack this complex web of ambition and uncertainty?
I think a good place to start is understanding the current state of the EV market in both countries, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges each market presents.
Paint me a picture. What does the EV landscape look like in the US and China? How do they compare? How do they differ?
On the surface, the US and China seem to be on similar paths when it comes to EV adoption. Both governments have implemented policies to encourage the development and sales of electric vehicles, and both countries have a growing number of EV manufacturers and startups popping up.
So they're both racing toward an electric future, but taking different routes, using different strategies.
Exactly. The U.S. market, with its long history of automotive dominance and vast network of highways, has always favored large, powerful vehicles, SUVs, and pickup trucks.
It's the American love affair with the open road, the freedom to roam, the need to haul everything from groceries to camping gear.
Precisely. And this preference for larger vehicles has influenced the EV market in the U.S. as well. American consumers are drawn to EVs that offer long ranges, spacious interiors, and a driving experience that feels familiar.
Think Tesla Model S, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Rivian R1T, vehicles that combine electric power with that classic American spirit.
You got it. These vehicles have proven that EVs can be both practical and desirable for American drivers, shattering the stereotype of electric cars being small, slow, and limited in range.
So the American EV market is driven by a desire for familiarity, comfort, and that sense of adventure.
Exactly. Now let's shift our focus to the Chinese EV market, which is shaped by a whole different set of factors.
All right, take me to China. What's fueling the EV revolution on the other side of the Pacific?
China, with its densely populated urban centers, its massive population, and growing concerns about air quality, has taken a more pragmatic approach to EV adoption. The Chinese government has implemented a series of policies and incentives aimed at rapidly electrifying their transportation sector.
So it's more of a top-down approach, driven by a mix of environmental concerns and the ambition to position China as a global leader in the EV industry.
Exactly. And this government-led push has created a booming EV market in China, with a wide variety of electric vehicles catering to different needs and budgets.
It seems like the Chinese EV market offers something for everyone, from those tiny, affordable city cars to sleek, high-tech sedans.
That's right. And unlike American consumers, Chinese buyers have readily embraced smaller, more affordable EVs, particularly for city driving.
Makes sense, considering the traffic congestion and limited parking in many Chinese cities.
You hit the nail on the head. And this difference in consumer preferences has given rise to a unique EV ecosystem in China, one that prioritizes affordability, efficiency, and practicality over size and power.
So it's like two parallel universes, each with its own set of rules, preferences, and challenges.
A great way to put it. And this is where Faraday Future's ambition to bridge these two worlds gets even more intriguing and challenging.
It's like they're attempting to build a bridge across a chasm, connecting two vastly different landscapes.
Precisely. To succeed, they need to understand the nuances of both markets, the technological differences, the regulations, and those cultural preferences that shape consumer behavior.
It's like learning to speak two languages fluently, navigating two distinct cultures, bridging the gap between two seemingly opposite worlds.
And that's what makes their journey so captivating, so full of potential pitfalls and unexpected triumphs.
It's a high-wire act, a balancing act of epic proportions.
But if they manage to pull it off, the rewards could be game-changing, not just for Faraday Future, but for the entire EV industry.
So, what are the key ingredients, the secret sauce they need to make this bridge a reality? What specific technologies, partnerships, and strategies will determine their success or failure?
It's about finding that sweet spot, a way to cater to these seemingly opposite needs. In the US, it's all about that long-range capability, those road trips. But in China, it's more about zipping through traffic and affordability for the masses.
How do you reconcile those two extremes? It's almost like they need two different cars.
And that's where this bridge idea comes into play. Faraday Future is exploring some really interesting concepts. One of them is battery swapping technology.
Battery swapping, I've heard about that. Isn't that more common in China right now?
Exactly. Imagine this, you pull into a station, not to plug in and wait, but to have your depleted battery swapped out for a fully charged one in a matter of minutes. It eliminates that charging downtime, which is a major pain point for EV drivers, especially in China.
So it addresses that need for speed and efficiency, especially in those crowded urban environments.
Right on. Now, how does that translate to the US market? Faraday Future is thinking about a modular battery system. You could have a smaller, more affordable battery for your daily commute, but for those long road trips, you just swap it out for a larger long-range pack.
Like Lego blocks for your car's energy source. That's pretty ingenious.
It's all about flexibility and meeting those diverse needs. They're also exploring different charging solutions. In the US, where home charging is more common, they might partner with companies that install those residential charging stations.
Makes sense? But in China, with so many people living in apartments, that wouldn't really work, would it?
You're right, home charging isn't as feasible in China. And that's where those battery swap stations become even more important. Faraday Future is reportedly talking with some Chinese companies that already have a network of these stations up and running.
Smart move. They're
Yep.
leveraging existing infrastructure instead of trying to build everything from the ground up.
It's all about those strategic partnerships. And let's not forget the software side of things. Navigation systems, driver assistance features, even those in-car entertainment systems. Faraday Future needs to develop a platform that can adapt to both American and Chinese preferences.
So no more getting lost in translation because your GPS is speaking the wrong language?
Precisely. The user experience needs to feel intuitive and familiar to drivers in both countries. It might even involve working with local software developers who really understand those cultural nuances and user expectations.
Wow, it's a huge undertaking, juggling all these technical, cultural, and even political factors. I'm getting tired just thinking about it.
I hear you. It's a lot to manage. But remember, they're not just trying to sell cars. They're aiming to create a whole ecosystem, a network that connects these two automotive giants. It's ambitious, no doubt, but if anyone can pull it off, it might just be a company with their boldness and that relentless drive to push boundaries.
It's like they're defying gravity, balancing this financial tightrope walk, juggling these ambitious product plans, and now this global bridge-building initiative. It's almost overwhelming to think about.
It's a wild ride, that's for sure. But that's what makes Faraday Future so compelling. They're a prime example of the power of ambition, that unwavering pursuit of a vision, even when faced with obstacles that seem insurmountable.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the bottom line? Should we be cheering for Faraday Future? Or are they destined to be just another cautionary tale, another failed startup?
That's the thing. Their story is still unfolding. They've stumbled, they've faced setbacks, but they've also shown remarkable resilience and a knack for innovation. Whether they ultimately achieve their goals or not, their journey offers valuable lessons for anyone who dares to dream big.
It's a reminder that innovation isn't always a straight path to success. It's often messy, unpredictable, filled with twists and turns and unexpected detours.
And maybe that's the most important lesson we can learn from Faraday Future. It's not just about the destination, it's about the journey, the courage to challenge the status quo, and the determination to keep pushing forward even when the odds are stacked against you.
So as we leave you to contemplate the fate of Faraday Future, we encourage you to embrace the unknown, to celebrate that bold spirit of innovation, and to never stop questioning the limits of what's possible. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to write the next chapter in this electrifying tale.
And as always, we want to hear your thoughts on Faraday Future's roller coaster ride. Share your predictions, your insights, your hopes for this ambitious EV company. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world of innovation and technology.